Hey guys, good morning. President Trump pressed this morning about last week's jobs report for July, showing the economy added just 73,000 jobs last month. But more importantly, maybe, the economy also lost 1.7 million foreign worker jobs. Of course, there's been a lot of consternation, especially among farmers and hotel workers, about what's going to happen when illegal immigrants leave those job sectors. To that, here's what President Trump had to say earlier this morning.
But if you look at the jobs report last week, it did show a 1.7 million drop-off of foreign-born workers from March to July.
And that's a great number, by the way. That's a great number, because it means we're putting Americans to work.
Well, last month, President Trump gave Vladimir Putin a 50-day ultimatum, threatening sanctions and tariffs if the Kremlin failed to agree to a ceasefire in Ukraine. Last week, the president cut that window to just 10 days, citing continued Russian aggression. That 10-day deadline is set to expire on Friday, and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff will be heading to Russia this week to try and work that ceasefire out. But those tariffs that Trump threatened toward Moscow, if it fails to negotiate a ceasefire, also extend to secondary tariffs to countries that do business with Russia. Countries like India, who Trump says not only buys massive amounts of Russian oil, but then sells it on the open market for big profits.
We do very, very little business with India because their tariffs are so high. So India has not been a good trading partner because they do a lot of business with us, but we don't do business with them. So we settled on 25%, but I think I'm going to raise that very substantially over the next 24 hours because they're buying Russian oil, they're fueling the war machine, and if they're going to do that, then I'm not going to be happy.
Well, President Trump also giving his thoughts today about Texas Governor Greg Abbott ordering the arrest of Democrats who fled the Lone Star State in an effort to stop the advancement of new congressional maps that could add several seats for Republicans in next year's midterms.
But in Illinois, what's happened is terrible, what they're doing. And you notice they go to Illinois for safety, but that's all gerrymandered. California's gerrymandered. We should have many more seats in Congress in California. It's all gerrymandered. And we have an opportunity in Texas to pick up 5 seats. We have a really good governor, and we have good people in Texas. And I won Texas. I got the highest vote in the history of Texas, as you probably know. And we are entitled to 5 more seats.
Well, the Russian hoax. A DOJ is now using a grand jury to look into the intelligence community under President Barack Obama and whether it was used to subvert President Trump's 2016 election win. To that, the president was asked, is he directing the Justice Department in this investigation?
The Justice Department now tapping a grand jury to look into the intelligence community's assessment of what was happening with Russia. Is that you have nothing to do with directing the Justice Department?
No, I have nothing to do. Pam is doing a great job. I have nothing to do with it. I will tell you this. They deserve it. I was happy to hear it. I actually read it just like you did. I have nothing to do with it. But what they did in the election, what they did in even the last election, but it was too big to rig. But what they did in the 2020 election is grotesque.
And the president also saying today he plans in the coming days to announce new tariffs on foreign-made pharmaceuticals. Initially, a small tariff that will balloon to 150% over the next 18 months, and then 250% after that. And finally, guys, the White House, President Trump will be signing an executive order later this afternoon having to do with something called debanking. A number of Wall Street institutions not allowing their customers who happen to have conservative beliefs, profess them on social media, taking away their banking rights, as well as companies that or banks that failed to do business with cryptocurrency companies. The president is pointing to the Equal Credit Opportunity Act. That is a federal law that bars discrimination in access to credit. Financial penalties could stem from any banks that fail to do business with potentially conservative bankers or users, and that's what the executive order will speak to later this afternoon.